Well, hey everyone, welcome to our Stories podcast. So I'm here with Frank and Tim Sorensen. All right, you guys, first things first, are we going for the Rams or the Patriots?
I pledge my allegiance to Tom Brady.
I'm with Tom Brady.
Are you serious?
He's the
Oh
GOAT.
my gosh. All right. Yeah, I read something in the Wall Street Journal the other day that said this is like the angriest Super Bowl ever because the, Saints are super upset because they feel like they got
cheated.
Yep. And
They
then
did.
no one really outside of you two really likes the Patriots. So anyways, everyone's angry, but it's all right.
Yeah.
I think everyone has a love-hate relationship with Tom Brady.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's probably
You
true.
either love him or you hate to love him.
To be fair, I think I'm rooting more for Tom Brady than the Patriots. The dude's the GOAT, and he needs to prove it. So I guess
Yeah.
the sixth Super Bowl might do that. Who knows?
Oh my gosh. I just want the Patriots coach just to change his sweatshirt. That's kind of all I'm saying.
That would
So
be good,
he
yeah.
wears the same one. Okay, sorry.
Good luck.
Moving on.
Yeah, no, Tom Brady's been in more Super Bowls than I have friends, so he's
Oh my
he's
gosh.
impressive.
That is so funny. Okay, so Frank, thanks for being in here. And yeah, super thankful that you're here. And we kind of, just on this podcast, we just asked people to share their stories. So if you were to share your story in like maybe 10 or 15 minutes, where would you start? How'd you come to know the Lord? The floor is yours, Frank.
I like to start it on a stormy night. No, I'm just joking.
No! Who'd we pick, Tim? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I grew up in the church. Actually, it wasn't until I was like 6 years old that we were invited to go to church. And I remember growing up and doing all the things in church, whether it was youth group or Sunday morning service. I even went to Saturday morning prayer breakfast because they had free orange juice and donuts.
Yep, that'll do it.
That'll do
Yeah,
it. Oh,
it's
yeah.
a way to draw kids in.
Oh, and adults.
And then there is this cool guy on Sunday afternoons that would, take me to the convalescent homes, and he would preach and sing, and then I would just get to hang out, and then we'd go to buffet afterwards, and eat some lunch. So anyways, growing up in the church, one of the things I realized is that I may have gone through the things of being in the church, whatever, but my heart was far from the Lord. I was out pursuing other things, whether it was sports, girls, or just trying to find fun times. That's kind of what I was doing. And it wasn't actually until I became an adult that I got saved.
Gotcha. Okay. So remind me, just to get some perspective, where did you grow up?
Oh, I grew up in the Bay Area of California, so I'm
Okay.
a Raiders fan if they were in the Super Bowl.
Oh my gosh.
Does it
Okay.
still exist? Raiders fan?
So, okay. So yeah, how did you come to know the Lord as an adult?
Yeah, so it's interesting. As you look at my story, you see God's hand of providence throughout my whole childhood, and especially during my teenage years on how He shaped me. I remember as a kid wanting to be a pastor. Like we went to church, but I wasn't saved. But I would like line up all my stuffed animals on my bedroom, and then I'd have the bulletin from the Sunday service and a hymnal that the pastor let me take home, and I would like go through the bulletin and act like I was doing the service and sing the songs, and my brothers would walk in the bedroom and I'd close the door real quick so I could finish the service and then
Wow.
recap the message a little bit. But it wasn't until I was out of the military. So I got married at 17.
Whoa.
Yeah. It came from a pretty interesting life as a childhood. Got my girlfriend pregnant at 17 and was like, oh my goodness, I don't want to raise my kid in the same neighborhood I live in. So I joined the military. That was my way out. And then I got out of the military, and I was serving as a youth pastor at a church. And I was teaching the kids through the book of Romans, and like God was like coming alive. His word was like coming alive to me. And I was digging into it and going to the pastor saying, hey, what does this passage say? What does this mean? And he kept telling me, just play games with the kids. Don't worry about that. So I ended up leaving that and going to my friend's church where he taught me and discipled me. And it was one day sitting in the service, singing Amazing Grace. And at that point where we got to, and He saved a wretch like me, at that point God exposed all my sins and showed me that, Frank, you're that wretch. You're that guy. Because the whole time I thought I was this pompous, somebody. And God showed me, Frank, that's you. And at that same time, it was really cool because at the same time I felt broken God all of a sudden started flooding me with all kinds of memory verses I learned as a kid, showing me how good and how faithful He was in what Christ did for me. And that was, I went to my friend afterwards, he was pastoring, and I said, yeah, have you ever feel like you've reached the next level of spirituality? And he's like, what do you mean? And I told him what happened. He goes, Bubba, I think you got saved. So,
Wow.
yeah. So I was 23 years old with 5 kids, and God just did remarkable work in my life.
Wow. Okay, so yeah, going back to when you're 17 and your girlfriend had a baby on the way, what was like flooding your mind? Did you have like a grasp of the Lord working in your life in that season, or was He a very far distant reality to you, or?
It was a far reality at that point. It didn't even cross my mind, to be spiritual with my kid or anything like that. I did know that when the baby was born, we were like, hey, you know what we should do? We should go to church. Like, we were raised in the church, and it's a good thing, so we should bring our kid up in it. And so we started going to church again, but it wasn't a thing for us. It was something for our kid to be growing up in.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So, Frank, you mentioned the military. What kind of impact did that have on your life?
That was huge. Joined the Air Force and went right away to boot camp, and kind of the first time I was away from everybody. And this is the first time I actually had my own bed, too.
Oh,
So we grew up I shared a bed with my brother until I got married, and then at 17 shared a bed with my wife. And so I had my own bed for the first time, so that was kind of fun.
Wow, that's weird. No, I mean that's a weird concept for sure.
Yeah, and but it changed the way I thought. It really helped me be a leader and be a man and find my own voice. So you kind of just be quiet and kind of do your own thing. And in the military, it was interesting to go on the different missions. And yeah, I dealt with life and death before as a teenager when people pulled guns on you or knives on you and you were in these fights. But to be face to face with, now I have a wife and kid back home, and I don't know if I'm going to go back home to see them. That was a very different perspective. And so I did things to be able to stay alive.
Wait, I'm sorry. Did people pull guns? I'm sorry. I shouldn't laugh, but that just like caught me off guard. Did people pull guns and knives on you a lot in your childhood?
Yeah, I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood.
Okay, Frank, that is worth mentioning. Okay, tell us a little about that. Yeah, okay, so Oakland, is that what you said earlier?
Well,
right?
it was Pittsburgh, Antioch, and different areas like that. So outside of Oakland.
The Oakland of the East.
Okay, so yeah, tell us a little about that. That's crazy.
Yeah, so I was the kind of guy that got into a fight either on their way to school, on the way home from school, or even at school.
Okay.
And it was just the neighborhood we lived in. People always, when you're walking, they're always trying to, whether it was, hey, kid, I like your watch. Come here and give it to me. And then you got to figure out how to get out of that situation. Or it was gang members trying to jump you or your brother into their gang and trying to figure out how to navigate through those.
Wow.
So, and then if I wasn't fighting with neighborhood kids, I was fighting with my brother.
Gotcha.
So-
So when you say when you went to the military and that was really when you felt like you were able to grow as a man, was that kind of as a spin-off from when you were younger being very kind of just victimized in a lot of ways? Do you think that there was any correlation there between you really feeling like you grew up and were able to kind of come into your manhood then? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I had a pretty domineering dad.
Okay.
And there was, I would say, some abuse going on. But I know that my dad loved me. Like, I don't ever question that. But I never had a voice at home. And then I was only married for a few months before I went in the military. And I didn't have a voice at the beginning. And we were in the middle of an exercise. And I was trying to give commands so that we can execute the things we needed to execute to get our objective. And people weren't listening. And it was at that point that I found, by God's grace, this strength to step forward and take the lead and bring people around so that we could meet our objectives. And God used that and some other abilities I had as far as shooting and hand-to-hand combat to actually take me and propel me in my military career to do some very fun things that a lot of people didn't get a chance to do.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. So, okay. So at 23, you come to know the Lord, and what kind of happens from there?
Everything got better.
Oh, I know. Isn't that awesome how it works that way?
Nice talking to you guys. Catch you later.
Oh, I wish.
One of the things that first happened was I realized that I was a jerk of a dad and a jerk of a husband. And I thought that my kids and my wife were there to gratify my needs and to make me feel need. You know, I remember thinking to myself around that same time, whenever I saw my dad, he was pretty much relaxed, and the kids did things to help dad, and my mom did things to help my dad and make him food and all this different stuff. And I realized, hold on a second, I actually did not like being a kid in that house. So I wonder what my kids feel like. And so as I started knowing God more and understanding what kind of father he was, then I became a better father. But it was a long process. And then when I saw what he talked about loving the church as yourself, like a way a husband loves his wife, then that blew my mind. And I was like, okay, Jesus loves the church. I see that, but that does not reflect me and the way I love my wife. And a lot of it was just immaturity. It was stupidity. It was selfishness. And the Lord took me on a journey to start breaking me of those.
Wow. Wow. And yeah, wow. Interesting. So by now, how many kids? Like, okay, so 23, you had 5 kids, right?
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Okay. And so.
My fifth one was born when I was 22. We had twins.
Oh,
So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wait, you guys have twins?
Yeah, Benjamin and Savannah, my 16-year-olds.
I never knew they were twins.
I think I've been told that, and I forgot that they were
Yeah,
twins.
we call them the Dweebs, the twin Dweebs.
Oh my gosh, I never knew they were twins. That is so crazy. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so
It was a buy one, get one half off.
oh my gosh, it
Wait,
was
so
the
which-
half off?
Yeah, which one came first?
Savannah's 5 minutes older than Benjamin.
Oh
minutes,
man,
okay,
I wish I was
awesome.
the firstborn twin. Anyways, okay, this isn't about me. So anyways, my story
Well, I
later.
wish I was a twin, so I guess we all have our ones.
Oh my gosh. So, okay, so when you came to that realization of just, God as a father and how you should be as a father, was it a pretty like slow change? I mean, how was that process?
Yeah, it was a slow change because I didn't know what that looked like, practically speaking. Okay, I could see how God interacted with his people in the Bible, but what does that look like from my perspective with my kids? Like, how do I do things? And so for me, it was very slow because I'm kind of stubborn and thick-headed. And then so all I did is I looked at the scripture and prayed. I read books, a ton of books, and then I surrounded myself with good people and watched how they interacted with their kids and how they interacted with their spouses. And then I just watched.
Right on. Wow. Yeah, so okay, so you went from the Bay Area, and then where kind of did you I know you've moved around a little bit, done a little church planting. Where did kind of what was the timeline for all of that?
Yeah, so we left the Bay Area. After I got out of the military, we moved back to the Bay. Stood there for a few years. Then we moved to Seattle probably around 2003, 2004. And we were up there for 3.5 years. Doing different things, working at a church. And then I've always been bivocational, so I always had a full-time job to support the ministry needs. And then in 2008, we moved to Cave Junction, Oregon, to plant a church.
Wow.
And we did that for 3 years before leaving there. And with some friends, we started a school and then worked at another church before eventually I planted another church in Medford.
Okay. Right
Yeah.
on. Right
and
on.
then about 2 years ago, we planted another church in Central Point.
So you like church planting?
Oh, I love church planting and I love church revitalization.
Wow. So why do you like that so much? Like, I mean, it does sound fun, but it sounds also like a lot of work.
Yeah. I think what does it for me is the fact that the church is Jesus's way for his people to interact with the community and be a light. And Jesus loves his church so much that I want to love his church. And so whether it's starting a new work or helping a work that's struggling become healthy, that's kind of where I want to be.
So, Frank, how has your family kind of come along in this church planning? How has their role, or what has their role been? Just the few months that I've worked alongside you at our Murphy campus, your family kicks butt. Has that always been the case? Did they make the moves as well as you did, or?
It's a great question.
Yeah, they've been amazing. I cannot say enough about how amazing my wife is. She is a woman of many gifts and many skills, and 10 times smarter than I am. And my kids are amazing. To watch how God has shaped them over the years and used them within church to love the people that hasn't loved us back, and to walk through deep pains with our kids, and so that they're exposed to the joys of the church and also the pain of it has been pretty cool. And then to see the fact that they're still willing to go and greet people as they walk through, and still willing to help set up chairs or set up sound equipment or be a part of teams to help feed people. It's been pretty amazing. And our mission statement as a family is we're servant leaders, humbly leading others to Christ. Like, we want to be seen as servant leaders, and my wife and I, by God's grace, are able to see that through our kids.
Wow. I bet that's a really cool feeling.
That's amazing. So I love what you said, that you walk through deep pain with your kids. So what does that look like as a parent? I don't hear that very often, people choosing to really walk through deep pain with other people. It's almost something that I've even been convicted of. Like, what does it look like to, it's funny, me and one of my good friends, we have this like line for this year, and it's life is messy because people are messy and sin is messy. And like, what does it look like to walk, with someone in their pain, to sit with someone in their pain? What does that look like as a father?
Well, when it's my kids' pain, we just sit there and listen to them, and then talk. But as things have come up through us in the ministry, so let me back this up a bit. My parents didn't really talk about things. They fought about everything. And it always escalated into violence. Well, my wife's parents didn't talk about anything either. And so when it came to whether it be budgeting or whether it be some big thing we need to pray about, we never saw either of our parents ever do anything like that. And so we wanted to be able to walk our kids through their faith, so that when they're on their own and parents on their own, they know what it looks like to struggle. They know what it looks like to experience the joys that the Lord brings with his people. And so whether it's we don't have a paycheck this month because we're church planning and there's no money in that, and this bill's due. Okay, family, come together. This is what we're going to do, and we're going to sit here and we're going to pray and let God take care of it. And then not only did our kids know, okay, we're not a rich family, right? We're not a poor family. And then to see the Lord answer those prayers one after another, so our kids got to walk through that. And then when pain hits us and people that you love and are closer than family to you betray you, and there's deep pain you go through, we never shielded our kids from that. They saw it. They're very empathetic, and they were able to see what was going on and see the pain. And then we just talked through that and talked about, okay, this hurts. Jesus went through more than this, and he's called us to love them even though it hurts. And so just to walk through those seasons with my kids and to see real deep pain and them still love the church and still love the Lord is a blessing from the Lord.
Wow, that is crazy. That is really awesome. So what I'm hearing you say is like being authentic, being real with them, and letting God show off when you guys are in those times, whether it's financially or relational brokenness with other people. That is awesome, Frank. What a great way to parent. I mean, wow, that's awesome.
So I have kind of an odd question, but so the Frank now, a wonderful 38, 39 years old, what would you now tell the Frank that you, when you're 17-year-old, found out girlfriend's pregnant? What does the Frank now tell that Frank 20 years ago?
Frank tells that Frank to humble yourself before the Lord. Because if not, the Lord will humble you. And from losing a baseball scholarship because I thought I was hot stuff, and losing it because I hurt my arm and see my dreams crushing. And then think I was hot stuff again and now I got my girlfriend pregnant. And then to go into a military career thinking I was God's gift to the United States military and see that dream crushing as I got hurt overseas. And then thinking I'm such a wonderful husband, and then God showing me my sin and my where I come up short. I would say humble yourself, number one. Number two, surround yourself with good, godly, healthy people early on in life, and don't wait till it's too late. Because there's a lot of mistakes that I could have corrected if I were around godly, healthy people. The way I treated my wife, the way I treated my employers, the way I treated my kids, the way I treated my friends.
That's good. I think every 17-year-old could benefit from humble yourself.
Did you
and
hear
I
that?
know Natalie at 17 definitely could have. That's
Yeah.
so good.
I got a 17-year-old right now.
So you hope he's listening.
I hope he's listening.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so Frank, now you are on the leadership team at Murphy campus.
What?
I know. And yeah, you really have a gift with teaching. Is that something you really enjoy doing? Just preaching? I know you say it makes you anxious. You would never know. I mean, no
Never.
way.
Never.
Does that you really enjoy doing that?
I love it. I enjoy teaching because you get to do something that very few people do. You get to take Christ before his people and show him how great he is. And you get to visit with people in their pain doing it. I just what Tim did on Sunday at church, where he took a very pastoral heart and talking about real pain in real people's life, and then showing them how great God is.
So good.
If I can brag about Frank, because he won't. So me and Frank are out at Murphy together, and he walked up and he's like, man, he'd had this toothache all week. And hey, man, how you feeling on Sunday? Well, toothache still really hurts. And he was nervous, and he even talked about maybe giving the message to someone else because the pain was so bad. Goes up, just a beautiful word, beautiful message. And I thought to myself, man, I need to get a toothache before I speak, if that's what's going to happen with a toothache.
Oh
But,
my gosh.
Yeah, so Frank, this is totally a hard question, but 5 years from now, what do you see the Matz family doing? You could do the whole whatever the Lord wants question, but where do you see maybe the Lord having your family?
If I got to write my own,
Yeah, if you got to submit a request to God with a,
it would be God still using me as part of River Valley to plant more campuses, to love on the people that are part of River Valley, and be a part of the teaching team still.
Amen. That
Yeah.
is so awesome. If you had asked me what I'd want in 5 years, it would be no more Patriots winning the Super Bowl. And no, I'm just kidding. Sorry. Okay. But deep moment, and then Nat takes it to different. Okay. Anyways.
that's deep. There's wounds there from what Tom Brady's done the last 15 years.
Oh my
He's 40,
gosh.
what, 42?
Yeah.
So 5 years, he might be ready to retire.
He so good. Best. Do you guys think best QB of all time?
Well, so just to clarify, because there's a lot of question marks around Tom Brady, the one reason I want him to win is because I do think he's the best. And if he's going to be in a Super Bowl, I'd rather him win it because that's just going to tack on 6 Super Bowls. Nobody does that. So
Right.
he's going to his 9th Super Bowl. I personally think he's the best. I am a young buck and was only a child when the Montanas and the Namath, so I wasn't around with Namath. But Frank, what do you think?
I always like to go with arguably the best.
Yeah.
Because rather than saying they're the best, because there's people who say Terry Bradshaw was the best or Joe Montana was the best, or so I would go with arguably.
Arguably. That's good. Well, cool. Yeah. I mean, I think I'm just so glad that you're here serving with us and your family. I mean, it is so awesome to watch your little army walk into Murphy campus.
The Matt's Army.
It's so great. I know. I love it. And what I like is each of your kids has their own special personality.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not even kidding. Some of them are shy. Some of them are really huggy. Some of them are not so huggy. Some of them
Yep.
are really gregarious. Some of them are like introverted, but we love introverts. I mean, introverts are great.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So, I mean, I just, and your wife is so much fun. I always see her in Winco. Anyways, I just,
Yeah.
Anyways, you're going to
Yeah.
say something, Tim.
So,
Sorry.
church plant question. You like planting churches. If you had one chance to plant a church, a River Valley church, anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, where would you want to bring your family to plant a church? Outside the wonderful Josephine County.
San Diego, California.
River Valley, San Diego. Board shorts only.
So great. Oh my gosh, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Well, hey, Frank, thank you so much for being in here. Really appreciate you sharing your story. And yeah, so glad that you're on staff here. So go
Thanks. If you think my story's cool, you got to hear my wife's.
ahead. Okay.
Okay.
I think next week. All
Yeah.
right. Okay. So you guys
Totally.
heard it. Next week, tune in. Teresa Matz is going to be here on the Stories podcast. Okay. So
Frank's
exciting.
better half. Let's go.
Well, thank you, Frank. Tim, thanks for being in here. Great
Anytime.
host. Appreciate you. And all right. Go Rams.
Go away.